This week on Things They Make Us Read, we have myself, Brian, Sydney, and Ulysses with When You Are Engulfed in Flames, an autobiographical collection of essays by David Sedaris.
And we're back again. It's February 31st, 2012, and we're talking about Sedaris' book, When You Are Engulfed in Flames, as part of TTMUR's Nonfiction Exists Awareness Month. Like he said, it's a collection of essays by the Sedaris guy who wrote the weirdly named but apparently appropriately titled Naked a bit ago. So we just finished the book, and it's fresh in the mind. Brian, would you like to start us off? What did you think of Sedaris guy? Because I hated him.
How could you hate him? I thought he was funny.
I liked him too, Brian. His stories were so unique and helped me, the reader, stay interested throughout the whole book.
I found him incredibly offensive and irritating. I just can't see past that.
That's the thing that's so intriguing about his essays. One example of this is he writes about his Helen, his outspoken neighbor. He talks about what she does, like the time when she attacked a deaf mute. He pulled at his hair and scratched his neck. Her response was there was barely any blood at all. No one writes about this, and when Sedaris does, it makes it unique and interesting.
Yeah, but no one writes about this for a reason. I was too stunned with outrage to laugh at that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sydney, for being stunned. But thanks to this story, it intrigued me to keep on reading. So thanks to Sedaris' stories, it helps gain interest towards the book, and this is an advantage of Sedaris' writing style.
He also used analogies in his writing. Analogies are a way of comparing two things or relationships between those things. Sedaris uses analogies to explain how things are from his point of view and his thinking. This is important because many of the essays don't explain what happened, but explain more of what he felt and about what happened.
I agree. He displays his use of analogies in various chapters, including the chapter April in Paris. In that chapter, he says, the eyes of the stranded grandmother, I noted, were not half as piercing. There she was clinging to the chimney with her bra strap, showing it, and all anyone did was wonder if she had a dog. I hate to think there was a Scotty in her house, maybe trapped on the first floor. What's the number of the canine rescue agency? At the end of the essay, he ties the story together with an analogy that mirrors the sentence stated before. The TV was on. The grandmother signaled from her rooftop, and I found myself wondering, with something akin to panic, if there were any spiders in her house. Sedaris knows that just because he has a place in his heart for spiders instead of dogs or cats, people think that place doesn't exist. He tries to tell us it and uses this comparison to describe it to us. This is effective because he compares it to something that is familiar to most people.
Okay, yeah, I get that,
He
but
uses humor a lot, like the time where he sneezed a lozenge at the plane passenger. Don't forget the time when he was in the taxi with the cab driver and he starts talking to him about porn, which is not the funny part. The funny part is when he goes off on a rant towards the cab driver, insulting him about watching porn. And later on, he contradicts himself by watching porn.
yeah, okay, I get that.
There's
But that
also a chapter where he becomes fascinated with dead bodies and informs an elderly woman of his experiences when she slips and falls on a grape at the supermarket. There is a fine quote that displays this in the book. You really need to watch yourself in the produce aisle. I know it, she said. I could have broken my leg. Actually, I told her, you could have been killed. The woman attempted to stand, but I wouldn't let her. I'm serious. People die this way. I've seen it. Now, this part is funny because it is really absurd to think that someone could be offed by a grape. And the humor is effective because it keeps the readers interested and it can lighten the mood when he gets to darker subject matter in the book.
okay. Oh my god, I get what you mean. Shut up. I just wanted to say that I don't think that
Another
this.
technique he uses is personification. One way he uses this is when he names a spider of his, April. He personifies it when he says that it had turned thuggish towards him, and that the other one misjudged him. This quote, whenever I returned empty-handed, I could feel the little spider judgment seeping from the plastic box. The face seemed goofy, was now haughty and expectant. I imagine her saying. I guess I had you figured all wrong. Personification helps the reader imagine what is occurring, like imagining the persecution of the spiders.
He also uses personification in an effective way when he tells a story of a time he got a skeleton for Hugh, his partner, as a present. He effectively puts us in his shoes by personifying the skeleton. I have another very nice quote that displays this. For the first few weeks, I heard the voice only when I was in the bedroom. Then it spread and took over the entire apartment. I'd be sitting in my office, gossiping on the telephone, and the skeleton would come in, sounding like an international operator. We were going to die. This personification lets us into his mind by telling us how he felt with the skeleton in his apartment. It also kind of lets us imagine how we would feel if we heard the skeleton voice constantly reminding us of our own mortality in our own apartment.
Okay, I get it, guys. Dude's funny. He uses personification. He uses analogies. He's freaking brilliant. But I don't think that excuses his offensiveness. His kind of humor is so funny that you laugh at, but you know you're going to hell for.
What it is that walks on four legs, then two legs, then finally three legs?
That's not a joke. That's a riddle, and it's a simple one. A human being. When we're babies, we walk on four. When we're adults, we walk on two. When we're old, we hobble around with a cane as our third leg.
Close, but no. The answer for all of them is a baby. It crawls on all fours, but if you chop off two legs, it wiggles around on two. Give it a cane and it hobbles on three.
Yeah, okay, see, it's exactly like that. It's terrible. It's horrible. It's funny, but it's terrible. I mean, okay, look at Helen. Take anything that Helen did.
Well, there was a time that we did mention before where she did attack the innocent deaf mute that was using her pen and just forgot to return it to her. She got angry and began to attack him by scratching his entire neck.
Right, okay, so looking at that, this is utterly ridiculous. If this happened in a real world context, if this happened, okay, like came up on TV that you saw on the news that someone did this, no one would laugh at it. They think, wow, that woman is crazy and senile. She should be locked away. They wouldn't laugh at it and think, oh, I love Helen like they do with the book. That's just something you do. And you don't. Sedaris excuses it in that moment. He's basically telling us that he excused Helen of her crimes against humanity. You don't do that.
But he does.
So why did he? I don't know why anyone would share this part of themselves with the world. What's the point of making people hate you?
I didn't hate him.
Shh, I'm making a point here. So by mentioning all the bads he's done, he's doing something we don't do in our daily lives. He's telling you what you're not supposed to know. Didn't you ever wonder why he was being this honest and open with people he's never met?
No.
Okay, right. Of course you didn't. Well, that was my main concern when I first started reading. Generally, when you read an autobiographical works, you know what the purpose of the writer is from the start. From there, you can work out whether or not they're actually being truthful about what happened. But here, you have no doubt he's being truthful because who made up bad things about themselves without the intention of coming off poorly. I mean, that's why his offensiveness is excused. Not only because it's funny, but because it's honest. And that's really annoying to me because just because you're honest shouldn't excuse what you do. But at the very least, the readers can respect that. I can respect that. I can respect him as a writer for being honest with us, even with the bad. I can respect him for sharing with us that showing his black babysitter around the house and showing her what he assumed that she didn't have back at home, like a bathroom and a telephone, allowed him to see himself as a miracle worker. If someone said that today, everyone would look at him like he's an effing idiot. Even having someone said that once makes you question his sanity. You know, that and along with his love for spiders. I respect his honesty, and I'll be honest and say it freaks me out just a little bit.
You're monologuing.
Shut up and move on to the next part.
Alrighty then. Flashbacks or frames in writing might be used to inform the reader of why the current events in the story are significant. Sedaris uses these techniques in one chapter, which is my personal favorite, called Solution to Saturday's Puzzle. He begins by describing the situation. On a flight to Raleigh, I sneezed and and a cough drop I'd been sucking on shot from my mouth, ricocheted off my folded tray table, and landed, as I remember it, on the lap of the woman beside me, who was asleep and had her arms folded across her chest. He then states his options: to do nothing and to leave her to find a shiny new button on the crotch of her jeans, or to pluck it up from her lap, or to wake her up and ask for his lozenge back. He prefaces this by saying these are his options under normal conditions. But he then tells a story within that story that explains why these aren't normal conditions. The framing device he uses in this essay is important because it gives new meaning to the situation at hand.
Another example is when he's talking about making coffee without running water. His water was off, and he was in desperate need for some coffee. He uses water from a flower vase, and while tossing the flowers away, he remembers what Hugh had to do to acquire those flowers. This leads him to talk about buying drugs and his relationship with Hugh. This frame gives the reader a different way to understand where he's coming from, rather than him just telling it plainly to the reader.
Oh, and going back to what I mentioned earlier about the honesty, it isn't just in what he writes, but how he writes it. For the most part, Sedaris uses an indifferent, kind of plain tone. You don't really get his commentary on what he thinks about what happened today. When you read it, it's just like it's happening then, or happened recently, not as if it was years and years ago as it is. And at first, it infuriated me.
Well, now you're just looking for reasons to hate him.
Shush. Now, I mean, why are you writing this if you have no opinion on what happened? It's when a friend tells you a story, and by the end of it, you're just like, yeah, and I mean, what's the point? And so I was thinking about it more and more because I really didn't want to dislike two narrators in a row. Although I did like Pops as a whole.
I didn't.
Neither did I. It was boring.
Still monologuing here. So I took a moment, stepped away from my work, looked deep inside myself, glared a bit at the book, was interrogated by someone to whom I gave no response, and realized something. His lack of comment is his comment.
What?
What?
His lack of comment is his comment. Think about it. Do you think that then Sedaris, the same guy who actually wore a fake butt, would be able to resist commenting on what happened? No, I don't think so. His ability to present this information to us in a non-biased and completely honest way shows his incredible growth as a person and a writer. It's kind of amazing to think that through writing, not saying something is just as much as throwing your opinion over your nonfiction writing. I respect that because it's something I definitely want to focus on going forward in my life as a writer.
I know what you're trying to say, Sydney, but come on. Me and Brian liked him.
That's not saying much to me.
So did you ever end up liking him?
No. He's like Aiden. I tolerate him, but we both know that one of us will end up killing each other in the end. Okay, guys, I think we're actually over time for once. Go figure.
Next week, we're discussing 50 Shades of Grey.
More like 50 Shades of...
Right! That's all the time we have this week. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah. Thanks again. Next time we'll be back with the science book, The Omnivore's Dilemma. More like the Omnivore's Dilemma. That book makes me want to stop eating altogether.
You have acid reflux. You can't eat anything anyway.
Shut up. Good night, guys. Hey guys, it's Sydney. Just wanted to thank you and to clear something up. The Omnivore's Dilemma will be the week after next, since next week is 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah. Who is making us read that? Why would we read that? We really wanted to thank you guys for watching this video. It's a bit rough. It's our first video podcast of hopefully many, so we'll get better in the future. It all depends on whether or not you guys did like this one. So we really need you guys to comment, like, subscribe, and share with other people so we can see what we need to improve on, see what we can do better for next time, or whether we should just scrap this entire video thing altogether. So we're really depending on you guys. Thank you for being here and watching us and supporting us. We'll hopefully be there next week with 50 Shades of Grey. Bye.